A very good afternoon, everyone. I hope that all of you are well, and also I hope that you're able to hear me very, very clearly. Unfortunately, in the morning, since the morning, I am facing some minor issues in terms of internet connectivity. So, just in case, if you are unable to hear me clearly, alert me via a chat message, or you can always unmute and speak. So, just because of that, I will not be turning on the camera in today's classes. Uh, so I really hope that all of you are doing well. Also, I hope that you're taking care of yourselves, and at the same time, you are keeping up with your studies. So this week is week 3 of the semester. Uh, Weeks are flying away very, very fast, and also we are just about 3 or 4 weeks away from mid semester. Okay, so please keep up with your revisions, keep up with all your assessments, and things will be going well if you are. Now, moreover, also do note that for the past few weeks we have been trying our gradebook. There were minor issues, but now it's completely up and running. I managed to fix on to the issues back last week Friday, so your gradebook is working fine. When I say gradebook, your online mark sheets. So if you go into grades, and then you would be able to see all your mark sheets being displayed and marks being displayed. All right. Now going to the announcement that I had released right at the very beginning of week 3. Okay, so we will be looking at that. So it says, "Welcome to week 3. You are to attend the Zoom-based lecture class, which is this particular class. You are to attempt the lecture-based quiz. Now, the quiz generally is just underneath all your lecture notes, so you should be able to find your quiz there. And you are to attempt the Zoom-based lab class, which is tomorrow morning. Okay, so that's on CN 535 for week 3. Also, do take into notice for the announcements. I have something on peer assisted learning. I am not sure whether you actually had a look at this or not. Now, what we have done, the Department of Computer Science and Information Systems, we have actually allocated a Pell leader for CIN 535, and the Pell leader would be what he or she would be doing is he or she will be conducting 1 hour of class per week. Is it written somewhere? Okay, yeah. So it's a free, look at it, this, let's read this. Pell is free of charge and is for all students taking CN 535. Pell session will be 1 hour session every week via Zoom. It is a great opportunity for all students taking CN 535, Multimedia and Communication, to get together in small groups to compare notes, discuss important topics, develop strategies for studying and learning, and network with peers. Attendance to Pell sessions do not require enrollment or registration. However, learners are strongly encouraged to attend the Pell sessions regularly. Now, the Pell session, it was supposed to begin from week 3. The Pell leader allocated for this particular course, I think his name is Ronish Naidu. So Ronish is still trying to sort things out in terms of which day and which time he will be conducting the class. So until then, so until till we are able to get a feedback from him, uh, this service is not available. So most likely by next week it will be up and running. So should you have any questions, any queries, so Ronish will be guiding you through. Okay, so I will alert you as to when the Pell session classes will be. So if you would like to attend it, you're most welcome to do so. Also, your assessment, there's an assessment alert. Your Project 120% has been released under the assessment section of the Moodle shell, and students are requested to go over the question and adhere to the instructions provided. Now, what we'll do is after the end of this class, after the discussion of lecture notes, I will go over your Project 1. So we can quickly go over the question and with some general tips and ideas. Now it's due on the 10th of September. So this today is the 12th. You have approximately 4 weeks, more than 4 weeks. In fact, yeah, close to about 4 weeks. You have close to 4 weeks to attempt it. So we'll refer to it after we're done with the discussion of the lecture notes. Moreover, remember this is week 3, week 4. Week 5, you'll have a short test which will be in place, and it would be active on Moodle for 2 weeks time frame. So within 2 weeks, anytime within those 2 weeks, you may go around attempting those questions. There will be a total of 20 questions, and it will carry 10% towards your coursework, and all of them would be multiple choice based questions. Okay, now the thing is, with your lecture based quiz, your questions are not timed. In fact, there is no timer placed in for the amount of time that you may need to, or amount of time that you take to actually answer the questions. It's not there in lecture-based quizzes. However, in short test one, it will be there. Okay, so you will have a specific time limit with it. Okay, more instructions will be provided as the quiz becomes active on Moodle. So let's hop into week 3. Okay, and those of you who have been attempting their week 1 lecture-based quiz and week 2 lecture-based quiz, thank you very much. I appreciate your efforts. Those of you who haven't been, please let this be a reminder to you that you should try your best to attempt this as soon as possible. Do not drag it till the very end. All right, so let's go over our lecture for week 3. Is 21 slides, so it wouldn't take much long. I am thinking close to about 1 hour to 1 hour 15 minutes, and the other remaining 15 minutes we will use it for our project 1 discussion. Now, this week's lecture is based on images. By the way, the textbook that we're using for CN 535, it's called Multimedia, Making It Work, and it's by the name of the author is Dave Bogan, and this book is a 2011 based publication. And if you need the textbook, it is available in the library. Now, we do know the library is closed because the campuses are closed. However, should you need the textbook, you're most welcome to contact. Now, what you can do is you can go to your student webmail. In your student webmail, you receive emails from FNUPR department. So with the FNUPR department, I think every week you receive an email from the library. So should you require any ebooks, electronic books, an email contact is provided in it. You can always go and contact that particular librarian, and they will be able to provide you with ebooks. Moreover, if you're unable to gain access to your student webmail, okay, your student webmail login will be very much same as you logging into your online student services. If you're unable to log in, please drop me an email. I will try to alert a IT staff to assist you, and he or she would be able to provide you with the details. All right, so we are talking about images. Now, creation of multimedia images, creation of still images, colors and palettes in multimedia, image file types used in multimedia. So in general, we will be looking at some of these things. Now, multimedia images, these are any images that can be used in any of the multimedia elements. Now, you can be talking about a poster, you can be talking about a billboard, you can be about a magazine, newspaper, or you can be talking about a website. So if you see an image of any of these multimedia platforms, you're looking at a multimedia image. Now, still images are just photographs. Okay, there's a big difference between still images and moving images. So moving images could be counted it as videos or animations, whereas still images are just still images, they are not moving. Colors and palettes. So colors, since we're using Photoshop through the platform photop.com, we are using colors. There are several colors, and when you are selecting different range of colors, you must have seen is that we have a tool whereby you can choose a lot of different types of colors. Now that tool is called palettes. So color palettes are basically is a system tray that allows you to select different types of colors. Colors, you know what colors are, and there are different types of file types that we use in multimedia. Now the three common ones that we've been using in our practical so far is we have a JPEG format, .jpeg, we have .png, and we are also using .psd. So these are the three common types that we are using and we will be using throughout the course of learning Photoshop. Creation of multimedia images. Before commencing the creation of images in multimedia, you should plan your approach using flowcharts and storyboards. Now, when you talk about planning, so we're talking about two things over here, talking about flowcharts, and you're also talking about storyboards. So when you're planning your approach, you need to work out your graphic approach. When we say work out your graphic approach in terms of how you are going to work with images and what all things you are going to do. So how do you work out? One is you can work out in your head. It's more like you're thinking in your mind. Secondly is you can work out in paper, so you can draw it up in paper. Okay, or what you can do is you can get together with a group, have a creative session with your team, and then come up with the approach of planning your multimedia image. Now, the best thing you can do is you can always start with a pencil and a paper. Okay, and using a pencil and paper, you can always go around outlining your project. So there are a few ways in which outline your project. You can use a flowchart. Flowchart is just a way of you showing a sequence of what all things you're going to do. And then you have a storyboard. Now, storyboard is also just like a flowchart, okay, but in it you have dialogues. Okay, now the common definition, if you would look up on the web or if you would look up in a dictionary, and if you are looking at the word storyboard, it would read something as sequence of drawing with direction and dialogue. So that means you have a drawing, and whatever dialogue isn't like, if you're making, we're talking about a multimedia image, it may be a moving image as well. So if your image is moving and your character in that image is actually speaking, so whatever things he or she is saying, the dialogues would also be boxed out. Now, a very good example of us seeing storyboard is, I don't know if they still have this in the newspapers or not, but previously, somewhere in the entertainment of section of the newspaper, you used to have cartoon based images. So you'll have different characters and they would be having conversations in those bubbles. So that's like a storyboard. Okay, and then you can use stick figures, etc. So that's how you go around planning your approach. Now, what are those? You can have it in your head. You can do it in using a pen or paper. You can have a creative team discussing it, or you can make use of flowcharts, storyboards, or stick figures to actually go and plan your approach. Second point that we have is organize the available tools. Now, we should be able to determine our authoring tools. Authoring tools for images, the authoring tool most likely would be Photoshop. Any particular tool that allows you to create multimedia projects are called authoring tools. So a very good example is Photoshop. Now, authoring tools, they provide you with tools such as text tools, they provide you with interactive buttons, they provide you with vector drawn objects and bitmap objects. So these are some of the things that authoring tools would do. Now, what are the vector drawn objects and bitmap objects? We'll be looking at them in the later set of slides. And finally, have multiple monitors if possible for a lot of screen real estate. In other words, you should be able to configure your workspace. If possible, have more than one monitor. Okay, why more than one monitor? With more than one monitor, it gives you a better real estate. Now, real estate here doesn't not mean that you buying and selling of houses. No, no, not that real estate. This real estate means you actually, the word real estate in multimedia means the viewing area where you are actually able to view the results. So in Photoshop, our real estate would be those, those documents that you're using, the Photoshop documents, and then we end up closing them. So that's the example of viewing area in Photoshop. And why do we need multiple screens? Okay, some would say there's not a need for it. In fact, yes, there's not much need for it. But if you're working on a really large multimedia project, so what you can do is in one of the screens you can edit, and the other ones you can go around viewing the results. So that's why you need multiple monitors. Creation of still images. Still images may be the most important element of a multimedia project. Still images, they come basically in small size, large size, or full screen size. And an example of a still image may be a snapshot or a picture of your car. That's an example of still image. The type of still images created depends on the display resolution and hardware and software capabilities. Okay, so in whatever form, still images can be, in whatever form they are, still images are generally generated by a computer, and they can be generated in two specific ways. You have bitmap and you have vector-based images. Okay, let me repeat that. Still images, they can be generated by a computer in two ways. One is a bitmap image, or another name for bitmap image is raster images, raster, and you have vector images, which we also call it as drawing images. The types of still images created generally depends on, like mentioned in the slide, your resolution, your hardware, and software capabilities. So if you are trying to create an image for a very, very large project, you wouldn't be able to do it with just a normal and temporary laptop with very small specifications. No, you won't be able to do it. You might need to have much more greater specifications and probably much more better authoring tool. If you're thinking of making a very large project just with the use of Microsoft Word, no, you won't be able to do so. You will need Photoshop. You will need the Corel Draw. There's another software for creating images. So you will need that. Still images are generated in two ways. Okay, I think I did mention it earlier, and the two ways are bitmaps and vector drawn graphics. When you talk about bitmaps, you're generally talking about photorealistic images, the pictures that we take with our smartphones. Okay, so those are photorealistic images, and they are very fine detailed. Each and every element will be fine detailed in bitmaps images. And another name for bitmap images is raster, raster, raster images. That's one type. And the second type of image that you have is a vector drawn graphic. Now, vector drawn graphic based images are those images which are actually drawn by a person with the use of an authoring tool. And how they're drawn using lines, boxes, circles, polygons, and other shapes. And these shapes are generally derived with mathematically expressed in terms of angles, coordinates, and distances. So vector images, they are drawn, how they are drawn, they are basically drawn by mathematical expressions and mathematical algorithms. Bitmaps. Bitmap is derived from the word bit, which means the simplest element in which only two digits are used and map, which is a two-dimensional matrix of these bits. A bitmap is a data matrix describing the individual dots of an image. Now, the word map basically means 2D matrix. Okay, the map, the word map basically means 2D matrix of bits. Okay, and bit is basically the simplest element in the digital world. So either it indicates 0 or 1, either it indicates on or off, either it indicates black or white or true or false. So bit, once more, simplest element in the digital world, on or off, black or white, true or false, zeros or ones. And map is the 2D matrix of bits. So when you combine these two words, so you come up with bitmap. So a bitmap is a simple matrix of the tiny dots that form an image and are displayed on a computer screen or printed. Okay, so that's what bitmap is, a simple matrix of tiny dots. That means you have tiny dot elements, and when you form it together, it comes and brings up an image which could be displayed in a computer screen, or it could be printed out in a piece of paper or even a garment, okay, even on clothing. And some of the sources of bitmap images. So how do we get these bitmap images? First of all, what you can do is you can create one from scratch. So how do you create bitmap images from scratch? Is from a paint or a drawing program. And what you can do is you can capture one. For example, you can capture one with the use of cameras, or you could capture one from a screen. You can do a print screen, okay? Or one of the simplest thing that many of us we might do is we might copy and paste from the web. That's how we get bitmap images. Now, bitmaps are an image format suited for creation of photorealistic images, complex drawings, and images that require very fine detail. Okay, so these are some of the places where bitmap images are most suited at. So if we look at it, when we say photorealistic images, drawn, okay, photorealistic images, these images are actually drawn, but it looks so real. It's like a surreal kind of an image. Okay, so bitmap images are also used in complex drawings and images that require fine detail. So fine detailing images, that's what we've been doing in our lab last week. We have been fine detailing our images, and we are using still images. So, and we are also using a bitmap image. So you're working with it at the moment. Now, bitmap images can be inserted by, what it simply means is how or where, how can you use bitmap images? Where can they be inserted? So these all are mentioned. You're using it in clip art galleries. You're using it in a bitmap software. You're capturing and editing images, and you are scanning images. So all these are described in the next few set of slides. First of all, using clip art galleries. Now, have you seen clip art galleries somewhere? Where have you seen clip art galleries? Anyone? Where have you seen clip art galleries so far? Microsoft Word? Yeah, it's available in Microsoft Word. It's also available in Microsoft Access. You also have it in Microsoft Projects even. Okay, so these are some places where we use clip art galleries. In fact, Microsoft Word is probably one of the first places where I have seen clip art galleries are used, but there are so many other softwares which use clip art galleries. So clip art gallery is an assortment of graphics. Assortment means assorted graphics, that means different types of graphics, photographs, sound, and video. Clip art is a popular alternative for users who do not want to create their own images. Clip art collections are available on CD-ROMs and on the internet. So generally, with the use of clip arts, okay, or what clip art is or what clip art gallery is, it basically contains anywhere from few to hundreds of thousands of images in a particular software. And the most important thing about clip art is that it can be imported into a document or it can be imported into some other programs. So those are clip arts. When I say imported into a program, in Microsoft Word, you have a set of clip art, but there's also a feature you will see where you can insert or you can import clip arts. So let's say you go off the web, you find a website and it has a clip art library. So you can download that and have that library imported into Microsoft Word. So that's how you import it. Now, the industry standard program for bitmap painting and editing are, so these are the two major industry standard. They're still used in the industry and they're used at a very large scale. And in fact, there haven't been much application softwares that is able to shift the market for these four major types of programs. You have Adobe's Photoshop and Illustrator. Now, Adobe's Photoshop and Illustrator is owned by Adobe Incorporations. Adobe Incorporation is a large multimedia software, application software-based firm in the States. So they own Adobe Photoshop and Illustrator. And also you have CorelDRAW Painter and CorelDRAW. Now, CorelDRAW is CorelDRAW was owned by Vecta Capital. That was the name of the company, Canadian-based company. And just recently, I think a few years back, 1 or 2 years back, it was sold to a New York-based company called KKR Incorporation. And you won't believe that KKR Incorporation actually bought this particular software called Draw at a net value of $1 billion. So now you should be able to determine how useful this software is. Okay, they bought it for $1 billion. I'm not talking about 1,000. I'm not talking about 100,000. I'm not talking about million. I'm not talking about 100 million. I'm talking about 1 billion. I hope you do know how many zeros are there in 1 billion. Okay, so they bought it for that much. So now the new owners for CorelDRAW is KKR Incorporations. It's a United States based organization, and yeah, and they provide the use of CorelDRAW for a small amount of fee. We're still on creation of still images, capturing and editing images. Now, capturing and storing images directly from the screen is another way to assemble images for multimedia. The print screen key in Windows with the Command Shift 4 key combination of Macintosh copies the screen image to the clipboard. Now, that's another way in which you can actually get still images or assemble still images is through the use of print screen keys. Okay, in Windows we have a print screen key. Now you'll notice this key would be right next to the delete button. Okay, if you're using your laptop, it will be right next to the delete button. If you're using a keyboard from a desktop based computer, it will be somewhere near the scroll lock based keys. Okay, so that's the print screen key. So what you can do is, if you want to print your screen, you can press the print screen key, open up a paint program, Control V to paste, and then you can crop it out and then save it. Okay, or another simple way in which you can print your screen now in Microsoft Windows is to the use of snipping tool. I don't know if you've used snipping tool or not. What you can do is you can go to your start menu, your search bar, type down snipping tool, SNIPPING, and it would activate the tool and you can snip off that amount that you want to have or have it pasted on the screen. And with Apple-based computers, if you're using a Mac-based laptop or Mac-based computer, it's the use of Command key with a combination of Shift and 4. And as soon as you press those keys, it will be saved on your desktop. You'll double click and you can open that up. And if you want to edit it later, you have the crop option from that image viewer. Image editing programs enable the user to. Now, one of the main purpose why we use image editing programs is to enhance and make composite images. Now, enhance, now we've been working on this in our lab last week. Make composite images, that's what we'll be working on in probably next week's class. Yeah, in next week's or after next week's class. Alter and distort images. And what do you mean by distort? Distort is basically you around twisting and turning images to make it look something different. Add and delete elements. Okay, if you look at the image on the right hand side, that's what has been done. You're adding and deleting elements. Okay, and morph. Morph comes from the word morphing. Morphing basically means you manipulate still images to create animated transformations. Or in simple terms, what you do is you have multiple still images, you convert and transition it in such a way whereby you are able to make animations out of them. For instance, you have a ball on the ground, so you just have that image and you manipulate it and alter it in such a way whereby you're able to make the ball bounce on that particular ground. Okay, so that's morphing. And an example of a morphing software has been used. So what happens is you're seeing a 4:3 screen, 4:3 shots of images on the screen. Okay, so what you're seeing at the very beginning here, this is what you're seeing first, followed by this image, followed by this and this, and then it keeps on going around, and finally you are left with this image. Now, what this morphing application software is doing is basically it is playing an animation, and the description is given here. So morphing software was used to seamlessly transform the images of 16 kindergartners, while a soundtrack of music and voice was added to the 4-minute piece. It made a compelling video about how similar children are to each other. So there were 16 of them. Okay, 16. At the moment I'm just seeing 12 on the screen is 4 by 3, so there's 12. Okay, so it's saying 16, so 16 of them probably were there. And from there it started playing one of these screens and kept on following in, and music was played on the background. So those images were animated. So that's an example of morphing. The creation of still images continues. Users can scan images from conventional sources and make necessary alterations and manipulations. When we talk about conventional sources, we are talking about usual old way of doing things. So the old ways in which we scan images is we use it through our mobile phones. Okay, you're taking photographs or you're scanning things from your photograph through the use of an app. You're scanning things from, let's say, newspaper images, magazines, and so forth. And these can all be edited from those different sources that I've told earlier. They can be edited in any of the authoring software to match your needs. The next way, or the next type of still image that we have, is a vector drone graphics. Now, you must know this, the still images, there are two types. The first one is you have a bitmap image, more like photorealistic image. And the second one that you have is vector drone graphics. So vector drone graphics is drawn through the use of mathematical algorithms and also to the use of shapes and objects. Now, let's go dig deep into vector drone graphics. Applications of vector drone graphics. That means where all are they applied and how are they used? How vector drone graphic images work? How do they work? How are they created? And we'll go and compare between vector drone graphics with bitmap images. So all these 3 points will be discussed in the next few set of slides. So vector drone graphic images are used in the following areas. So you have CAD, computer aided design, okay, programs. So vector drone graphics are generally used in such scenarios. Now what CAD does is basically it deals with highly complex and geometric rendering, and examples of such kind of drawings where you have highly complex and geometric rendering is what architects and engineers do. So architects, when they actually create a plan of a house, okay, so they use CAD programs, computer aided design programs. So with that, they're able to basically they're able to make plans of the house to very fine detail, to very exterior details. Okay, so that's like a highly complex diagram. And then you have graphic artists designing for the print media. What it simply means is you have graphic artists drawing vector drawn diagrams to use it in printing media in terms of printing. Let's say graphic artists, they would use in printing posters, billboards, even those receipt books that you normally see, or invoices. So these all can be used using a vector drawn image. And then you have 3D animations. So 3D animations, basically it changes various types of position, rotation, shading of light, etc. And then applications requiring drawing of graphic shapes. So any kind of application that uses shapes a lot. For example, those invoice boxes where you have the name of a person and then you have a table which will say quantity, amount, and so forth. So these all require the use of shapes. So vector drawn images can be used in such situations. And then you have a diagram here, okay? The example of a vector image in Adobe Illustrator. Now, Adobe Illustrator, what it does, basically, it allows you to create vector images. Now, Photoshop does not allow you to create vector images. Well, you can create vector images, but not to an extent that is industry accepted. Very minor things. But Illustrator is the ultimate software whereby you can create vector images. For example, the soccer ball that you're seeing on the screen, that is created from scratch. Okay, it's not copied from the web. And you can create such kind of things through the use of Adobe Illustrator. Okay, and generally when you are saving your vector drone diagrams, you end up saving it in a SVG format, which means scalable vector graphics, SVG format. So how are they drawn? How are vector images drawn? A vector is a line that is described by the location of its two endpoints. Vector drawings make use of Cartesian coordinates. Do you know what Cartesian coordinates are? Cartesian coordinates you must have learned in, I'm guessing, in class 7, 8, or if not class 7, 8, then Form 3 mathematics, whereby you have a plane, and in that plane or Cartesian plane, you'll have the x axis and the y axis, and then you are able to have coordinates in them. Okay, so that's Cartesian coordinates. Cartesian coordinates are numbers that describe a point in 2 or 3 dimensional space as the intersection of the x, y, and z axis. So what vector drawn images generally do is it is described by location of 2 points. And those two location of points are derived through the use of Cartesian coordinates. And the Cartesian coordinates are x and y. Now, the x coordinate represents the horizontal line in the Cartesian plane, and the vertical is basically represented by y. Okay, the vertical plane that you have is represented by y. And in some extreme cases, what you do is you have a z-axis as well. So you have x, y, and z-axis, where whenever you have the z-axis coming in into the Cartesian plane, that's where you know that a particular image is created into a 3D format. So x and y are just 2D, x, y, z on a Cartesian plane represents 3D. Vector drawn images versus bitmap. Vector images use less memory space and have a smaller file size as compared to bitmaps. Now, why is that so? Now, what you notice is that with vector images, why is saying it uses less memory is because they are created from the scratch. They are not borrowed from somewhere. Whereas bitmaps, you either scan it or you either, what you do is you get it from a source. For example, a camera. Now, with vector images, you are generally focusing on to the use of lines. In bitmap images, these are more photorealistic images which display a lot of color. And in that case scenarios, the size of a bitmap image goes quite higher compared to a vector image. For the web, pages that use vector graphics in plugins download faster when used for animation, draw faster than bitmaps. Okay, so on the web, vector images or vector graphics, they upload or download faster. Now if you look at some general difference between vector images and bitmap images, there are more on the next slide. Is vector images cannot be used for photorealistic images. Now, why they cannot be used for photorealistic images? Because you cannot have a photorealistic image in terms of lines and mathematical calculations. Okay, so that becomes difficult. Therefore, they are different. Now, vector images require a plugin for the web-based display. Now, why a plugin? Because these plugins, they allow the images to be generated through the use of mathematical algorithms. Now, these days, you don't need a plugin. Previously, we used to have Adobe Flash Players, which would need to be downloaded into your browser and connected to it as an extension. And only if the extension is there, then the images will be displayed. So that was on vector images, but now it's just able to read it through straight away. Now, bitmaps are not easily scalable and resizable. When we say it's not scalable, that means you cannot enlarge or you cannot contract it too much. While doing this, you may get the images distorted or it may get too pixelated. The bits will throw out, okay? Whereas with vector graphics, you can do that. Why? Because it doesn't need, or it is not created to the use of pixels. It's created to the use of shapes. So shapes, you can make it bigger and smaller. Just like Microsoft Word, Let's say you have a small square. When you try to make it bigger or smaller, does it distort? No, it doesn't. But if you bring in an image in Microsoft Word and you try to make it as big as possible, you'll see the entire image starts looking bad, or the correct word is starts getting pixelated. And bitmap images can be converted to vector images using auto tracing. Okay, so there is a way in which you can convert your photorealistic images into vector images, but what will happen is this auto tracing process, it may end up not looking as real and as good as what a vector image would look when you create from scratch. There are other differences between the two. So in summary, if I have to sum it up, a vector image generally requires less memory compared to a bitmap image. Moreover, a vector image is mostly used in the web. Since it requires less memory, so the file size is smaller. And since the file size is smaller, the uploading and the downloading downtime is quite less compared to a bitmap image, which is bigger in size, bigger in memory, takes longer to load and upload. Okay, now a vector image is generally created. Okay, that means you have to create it from the scratch, whereas a bitmap images is pre-created. So how do you get the bitmap image? Through cameras, through scanners, through copying and pasting it from the web, and so forth. A vector image is scalable. In other words, you can make it bigger, you can make it smaller. Okay, you can extend the width only, you can extend the height only, whereas with bitmap image you will not be able to do so. So therefore it is said to be not scalable. That means you cannot extend it to as much as what you can do with the vector image. Now when you try to extend bitmap images, it will easily get distorted, it would lose its resolution, and also it would be rated as a poor quality image. Now, vector images, they are generally made with shapes and mathematical calculations, whereas bitmap images, they're pixel based. Pixels, what are pixels? Remember the very first lab that we did, we extended the image, we tried zooming in and zooming out. So we reached a stage whereby with the image, we were able to see tiny, tiny boxes in them. So those are pixels, okay? So bitmap images are pixel based, whereas vector images, they are mathematical calculation based. Now, moreover, vector images are best used for creating logos, drawings, and technical drawings. Whereas when you look at bitmap images, they are mostly used for editing. They are used for editing photos and toning images. Okay, and moreover, bitmap images are resolution dependent. That means that they are mostly dependent on the pixels, they are dependent on the resolution. If the resolution goes out due to massive enlarging, so what happens is that your image becomes highly and extremely distorted. However, if you look at vector images, they are resolution independent. They do not depend on those pixels because they do not have pixels in the very first place. Okay, they have mathematical calculations and shapes. So with that, it is said that vector images are resolution independent. And finally, some of the basic softwares that you will need to use to create vector and bitmap images are: you need Photoshop to create your bitmap images, and you will need Illustrator to create your vector images. Okay, so these are the two different types of applications that you can use to create vector and bitmap images. I'm not giving an example for Corel Draw, is because Corel Draw is hardly used here in Fiji. That's one. Two, it's more expensive than Adobe's softwares. And also we do not have compatibility based other compatible softwares that can operate with Corel Draw. For example, we have photopea.com. If you are using Photoshop at home, just in case you have your PSD file saved somewhere and you're on the go, so you can always go and tab down www.photopea.com, and then you can go editing your image. Whereas Corel Draw, we don't have something as such. So please do note that these are the two basic types of softwares. Now, we've reached the end of the lecture. So just like each and every week, I have put down close to about 10 fill in the blanks kind of question. So try to attempt these on your own. Now, I'll tell you a catch. Now, why I'm giving all these things, I may test you some of these things in the exams. So please ensure that you are attempting them. Do not leave it as it is. Okay, it's your honors that you put in, the amount of work that you put in this, you may get some additional marks. All right, so this finishes our lecture notes for week 3, and we're quite early because it was just 21 slides. So yeah, any questions, any queries, anyone? Any questions, any queries? No. Now, by the way, whatever things that I have said while discussing the notes, I have tried to add these in your note sections of the slide. If you notice that there is a note section right underneath the slide, which you're seeing here. So all these additional things that I'm talking about, okay. Now what I'm talking is I'm talking in summary point. This is quite extended view, some extended explanation of those concepts that we have discussed in the slides. Please do go over them as well. Okay, I have put in quite a lot of effort to get these on those note sections. So take time out, read them as well. That will build your understanding, since this is theory, and your mid-semester exam, your short test would generally be tested on the theoretical concepts of this course. All good, everyone? Any questions, any queries so far? Okay, thank you for your feedback, Izal. Okay, so all good from your end. If all is good, so I'll close off the lecture slides. And what I will do next is I will open up your project 1 question. Now, your project 1, it's not going to be too simple. Okay, it is not too difficult, but it's not going to be too simple either. Okay, you'll have to put in a bit of work, and especially you have to start thinking a bit creatively as well. Now, your project 1, I don't think much of a lot of you would have gone over it because this was just posted in about 10 minutes before the class started. Now, your assignment 1 or your project 1 is worth 20% towards your coursework. Okay, and your concept for this project is surrealism photography. Okay, surrealism. So I've explained what surrealism is. Surrealism photography represents unconscious ideas, dreams, and emotion in the form of images. So when you talk about surrealism, it's just like it's like an imitation of something that may or may not be real. Like in other words, you have an idea in your mind. For example, how about this? I have this idea in my mind and a picture that if I would open up a coconut, okay, and out of the coconut, or probably inside the coconut, there are 3 or 4 individuals. There are 3 or 4 human beings inside a coconut. So that's like a surrealism idea. So surrealism photography represents something as such. Now you'll be surprised to know this. That's your second line. Many great artists, especially those who are quite keen at drawings and those who are quite keen at taking photographs, okay, so many great artists and digital artists are those artists who basically make drawings to the use of computers, have made had made great careers out of surreal photography. And I've given an example there. So you'll see you have close to about 6 stones, and on top of that stone there's a small house and a tree. Now that is something that might not be real. Why? Because generally the stones would be of smaller size and the house and the tree would be of a bigger size. So that idea is surreal. There are so many other examples on the web. For instance, uh, see, these are all examples of surreal images. Probably this looks quite nice. Okay, And moreover, you have this as well. Okay, so these are surreal images. Now, going back to your question is, now you can have a look at, even you can have a look at these images and then come up with ideas. However, I have put up a constraint. Okay, so what the constraint is, I'll let you know. Now, in this project, you are to use your creative ideas and imagination to create a surreal image. Instructions. You are to think of unique ideas. Okay, think of something that is new. Unique means something that does not exist. It should not replicate surreal images on the web. Now, when you actually give out your, when you will actually submit files, it will go through a plagiarism checker. And just in case, if it picks it up from the web, you end up getting a 0. Okay, so that's the case. So ensure that you are not picking up these images from the web. Now, you will make use of at least 5 images. So you'll have to make use of at least. At least means minimum. That means minimum of 5. You can use more than 5. You can use 10, 15, or 100 even. It's up to you, but minimum is 5. So make use of at least 5 images. You are permitted to manipulate and distort images as per your need. Students are allowed to use images from the web or their own photos. Now, when I say you are allowed to use images from the web, for example, if you are coming up with a concept to do something or create a surreal image, you'll need to combine a lot of images, probably about 5 or 6 images. So those individual images, you can extract it out from the web and then create something new. Okay, when I say you're allowed to use images from the web, it does not mean you get a surreal photograph from the web and then submit it to me. No, not that, please. Okay, and your third constraint is your surreal image has to be conceptualized on local or Fiji-based objects only. That means you cannot make use or you cannot create a surreal image that goes out of the local concept. Okay, for instance, if there might be few images here and there, example here, giraffe. So using a giraffe is not a Fiji-based concept. We don't have giraffes here in Fiji. Okay, so you are to ensure to use something as such whereby you are conceptualizing your idea on local based objects only. Refrain from using concepts that are subjected to other countries. Example, use a mango tree instead of an apple tree because we don't have apple trees here in Fiji. Probably if you are coming up with some other concepts, building, try to use a local building instead of a building in the States. All right, so use local concepts. Now that awards you 3 marks. Okay, and the complete image needs display clarity. Avoid using images that are pixelated and highly distorted. So do not use pictures which are unclear. Do not use pictures which seem to be very much pixelated or they are all, it looks bad, of bad quality. Okay, so if you are using a very clear image, okay, it depicts clarity, therefore you will be awarded 2 marks for that. Your fifth point, surrealism photography leaves audience in awe. That means it wows the audience. It stands out to be authentic while it is not. When you say authentic, means something that is real. Now, if you look at these images, okay, now it looks as real, but in actual, it is not real. It's not natural. Okay, so you need to depict something as such. Okay, so your surreal image should depict the same quality. So when I, as a marker or as an audience, when I look at it, I should be in awe. I should say to myself, oh, this looks wow, this looks great. Okay, this looks as real, but while it is not. All right, and the next point is you need to be creative and imaginative. Okay, come up with out of the box possibilities and ideas. That's why I say try to be as creative as possible. You don't have to look very far off. You have many tiny things and elements or many objects probably just lying around your room, probably in your compound, probably within your family, probably your belongings or with your neighbors. Okay, just think of it and see what all things you can place it in there, or what all concepts you can merge in to create a surreal image. And the last point is use photopea.com or Photoshop to create the surreal image. The assessment needs to be submitted in a .psd file. Make use of layers and necessary Photoshop editing or creating tools, and you are awarded 3 marks for that. So in total, so it's 5 plus 3 is 8, plus 3 is 11, plus 2 will give you 13, plus 4 would give you 17, plus 3 gives you 20. This total mark. So each of them would carry the exact percentage towards your coursework. Now submission. Submit the assessment in a PSD file in the submission Dropbox provided in the assessment section of the Moodle shell. Okay, so project 1's realism, 20% submission box. Maximum file size for submission is 50 MB. Now that is the only maximum size that Moodle is able to take in at the moment. In fact, I would have preferred more, close to about 100 to 200 MB, because I do have a feeling that while some of you would merge images, your file size may go close to about 100 MB or even more than that. Now, just in case, if your submission file be more than 50 MB, students are requested to share a Google Drive link upon sharing their files. So what you can do is you can upload your files in Google Drive. How do you use Google Drive? If you have a Gmail account, so drive.google.com, or just go onto the web and search Google Drive, upload the file, and then just share the link with me. So how do you share the link? So you can use a Notepad file, or even you can use a Microsoft Word file. Just copy the entire link, paste it inside that document, and upload that document in the Dropbox. Now, why I'm telling you not to send the link to me on email, just in case if I miss it out, you may end up losing marks. Okay, so please ensure that you submit it in the Dropbox. It becomes very easy for me to track it from there, even for future cases as well, because I receive a lot of emails per day. And just in case if I lose track of it, let's say you submit it today, I have a look, and then while I'm marking it, I completely forget about it. And somehow or the other, you also forget about it as well. So while other students may have received their assessment marks, you didn't. And at the end of the semester, you tell me that say I've emailed it to you, and then I'll have to go back searching for it all over. So I don't want to have that scenario whereby I lose track. Say, can we zip the file? You can zip the file, but I don't think it will reduce the file size. For example, if it's 100 MB, let's say your file size is 100 MB, and if you would zip it, it will go down to 90 something or even 80. You can compress it, it will go down about 20 or 30 MB down, but not too much. Okay, so you'll have to submit it either on Moodle Dropbox. If your files is more than 50 MB, put it on Google Drive and just share the link with me. Put the link in a Notepad and drop the Notepad file or the Word document file inside the Dropbox. Should be fine. Backups, please make sure that you have regular backups of your assignment to avoid disappointments. Now, please do that. Okay, do not tell me a day or two before submission that you have lost your file. Your IT students, this is CIAN 535, and I'm guessing most of you are CSIS or IS-based majors. And if IS students or IT students will tell me, sir, I lost my file because my flash drive went bad or something, a laptop went bad, that would be one of the lamest excuse ever. Okay, so please ensure that you're keeping backup copies. Now, if you're using your student emails, with these student emails, you are given 15 GB of free cloud space. So you can store your files to cloud. Okay, OneDrive based or Google Drive based cloud, try to store it there. Late submission, okay, start early. Also, when you finish, don't hold on to your assignment till the last moment. Submit it as soon as you are satisfied with it. Plagiarism, very important. Referring to submitting or refers to submitting or presenting someone else's work, writing, invention, or other creative work as his or her own writing, invention, or other creative work. Plagiarism may exist in the following forms. One, the work submitted was done in part or whole by an individual other than the one submitting or presenting the work. So if you are giving in somebody else's work, that is counted in as plagiarism. The whole work or parts of it are copied from another source without due reference. So you have copied somebody else's work, you have taken something out from the web and you say that's your own. So that's plagiarism. All a student submits in one course work that has already been submitted in another course. Okay, so that means I doubt this would be a case here in CN 535, and also you won't be able to get it from the previous lots as well, because last year there was a different assignment altogether. So it's very difficult for you to copy this or get assignments from previous year student. Now, this is very important. The accepted rate of plagiarism for this assessment is 20%. If your plagiarism checker gives you more than 20%, now in terms of graphics, with a word-based document, what happens is generally you are provided with the plagiarism rate. Now here in this case, I will have to do it from my end. So just in case, if your assessment is more than 20%, I will let you know. Okay. Now marks shall be directed for plagiarism rates above 20%. Any assessment with a plagiarism rate of 50 or more percent shall not be accepted. That means if your plagiarism checker hits more than 50%, I am not accepting your assessment. Students shall be given one more attempt to resubmit. Now, I'll be fair with you. Okay, I will give you one more attempt. Since you're not alerted on the 50% beforehand, I will give you one more attempt, but it has to be attempted within 48 hours time frame. So if you fail to submit, or failure to improve the plagiarism rate, the student shall be rewarded a mark of 0. Okay, so that's on the assignment portion. Now, any questions so far?
What's the due date for this project?
Oh, the due date. Thank you. I've given you close to about a month time, I think. Okay. Here, the project due date is on the 10th of September, 2021. Okay, and the time is 11:59 p.m. And I've also put on a cutoff date as well. Do you know what cutoff dates are? Anyone? Do you know what is a cutoff date? I think most of you are doing this. Most of you are doing a unit with me for the very first time. So I use cutoff dates. So cutoff dates would be something like this. So let's say your assignment or your project in this case is due on the 10th of September, right? Now, after the 10th of September, 11:59 p.m., your deduction starts. So you will be given 5 more days to actually go and submit your assignment with deductions. And on the 15th of October, 11:59 p.m., that is a very last hour, very last minute, whereby you will be allowed to submit. After the 15th of September, 11:59 p.m., you will not be allowed to submit assessments anymore. Okay, so if you exceed 15th of September, your assessments won't be accepted. All right, and please also, if you want to know what is a policy on late submission and how much is going to be deducted, policy on the reduction of identical submissions, please feel free to go and place a click on this link, and you can go and read the policies all on late submission and on identical submissions. Okay, any questions, anyone? Any more questions? Project is not difficult. It's just about you using creativity. Now, I do know and I do understand that we have not gone over Photoshop examples to that extent. Okay, we will be going it in tomorrow's class and in next week's class, and eventually you will be knowing all those elements which would be needed for you to create a surreal photography. However, you have the privilege of using the internet. A lot of things are there on YouTube, especially on Adobe Photoshop. A lot of websites have been developed just for students to go and learn on Photoshop's tricks and turns. So please do go over them. And the thing is this assignment is cost about 60% of coverage from the class, 40% is you going on and doing research and trying to attempt that. And moreover, it's 100% creativity. It is all about how creative you are and how much things can you think of to create that particular image. So in total, you'll only have one .psd file that needs to be submitted. So in the psd file, I am expecting layers to be there. Okay, I'm expecting all the things that you are using, it should be there within the layers. I should be able to detect whether you have used 5 photographs or images or not. Within the layers, I'll also know and understand that whether you have, what kind of tools you've used. The history will be present. The history of all the tools that will be used will also be present, so I can always go and have a look at them. Izal, for this course, we won't be. Now, Izal, this is 100% coursework unit, so therefore, in 100% coursework units, you do not have final examinations. It's good in one way, you do not have final examinations because everything would be tested in terms of coursework-based assessments. However, it gives you a lot of load in terms of, you have back-to-back assessments. So week 5, for instance, week 5, you have your short test. Now, project, I have shifted this from week 6, the due date is somewhere at the end of week 7. Okay, so week 5, you have short test 1, week 6, sorry, week 7, your project is due. Week 7, you also have your mid-semester exam, and then you have a weekly quiz as well. So you like before your mid-semester break, you will be going on a continuous 4 assessment scale at once. So that's a load, that's a lot of load. Okay, so whereby if you look at this, so you have 10% and another 20% with the project is 30, another 20% with your mid-semester, and probably few percentages, 2 or 3% from that. So that's like about 55 percentages on stake while you are going through all these assessments. So that's a drawback of 100% coursework. However, you do not have final exams, so that eases up your load during the end of the semester. Any further questions, anyone? No questions? Okay. I just quickly wanted to go across everyone. I just wanted to speak to you in terms of how you are doing, how you're catching up, if you're facing any difficulties. If you are, please feel free to speak. If you do not feel comfortable speaking, just say pass. And you can always drop me an email or you can send me a message in Moodle. So I'll go across the list of participants that we have. So we'll start with Arishna. And Arishna, how are you doing? Are you facing any difficulties or anything?
Sir, all good.
All good. Okay, thank you.
No, all good.
All good. All right, thanks. Arunil, how are you doing?
So I'm reviewing the last week, 2 weeks lectures to catch up with the work.
You've just joined us recently, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, Arunil, just in case if you have any questions or queries, you are most welcome to drop me an email. Or what you can do is you can send me a chat message on Moodle. Okay, just in case if you are facing any difficulties.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ashnil, how are you doing?
Yes, for me, so far it's okay. So I've taken 4 units this semester, so it's trying to manage all. But
You've
so
taken
far
4.
everything is on track. Yeah.
So you're taking 4, you're working as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a bit of load on you. So yeah, but it should be fine. I think with online mode, it's a bit easier for you because previously you used to travel. So now the
Yes.
travel is off.
Yes, that's one thing. Yeah, so all the stuff is online. So yeah, it saves a lot of time traveling. And even while I'm at work, I'm able to attend lectures and tutorials. So it's quite
Okay.
helpful. Yeah.
Okay, so that's good. Thank you. Good that I'm getting some feedback from you, and thanks, Ashnil. Abhishek, how you doing? Abhishek, you there?
So I'm good.
All good from your
Yes,
end
sir.
so far?
Let's say trying.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Izal, what about you? How you doing so far?
All good, sir. No difficulties.
No difficulties. Okay. Thank you. Parvesh,
Yes, sir. All good.
all good? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Parvesh. Seema, how about you? How are you doing? Okay. We're not able to hear from Seema. Okay. So I guess most of you doing well, but just in case if you feel uncomfortable in speaking while we are conversing over the Zoom lectures, so what you can do is you can always feel free to drop me a message or feel free to drop me an email. Okay. So yeah, so that's all for today. So thank you very much for joining in our lecture class. Please go over your assignment questions, go over your lecture-based quizzes. Try to attempt them as soon as possible. Okay, thank you, Seema. Thank you for your feedback. Please try to attend your lecture-based quizzes and your assessment well before time. Apart from that, yeah, that's all from me for today. So I will see you all tomorrow in the morning from 9 to 11 in our lab classes. Thank you. Take care. Stay safe.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Uh,